Hey everyone, welcome back to the Spark and the Forge podcast. I'm your host Subrata Kar, and today I'm diving into a topic that's not just shaking up telecom industry but is fundamentally changing the way we think about payments. Telecom and blockchain based payment solutions. Now here's the thing. The telecom industry is facing significant challenges right now. Slow transaction settlement times leave couriers waiting for days, sometimes even weeks, and operational costs pile up due to reliance on intermediaries. When it comes to cross border payments, traditional banking systems often introduce more complexities than they resolve. But what if there were a way to simplify the process and make the transaction both instant and secure? Blockchain technology offers a transformative solution that addresses these challenges head on. Of course, like any big disruptions, there are both risks and rewards. So, how exactly blockchain being used in the telecom payment systems? What are the biggest challenges companies face when trying to adopt this technology? And how does digital currency like Zeebu's Zeebu token fit into this picture? To help us unpack all of that, I'm really excited to welcome today's guest, Raghavendra Hunasgi. Raghav, as he is known, is the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Zeebu, a Web3 powered payment and settlement platform that's truly transforming the telecom space. Zeebu's blockchain-based systems help telecom carriers settle transactions in just minutes instead of days, slashing costs and boosting efficiencies. So in today's episode, we are going to take a deep dive into how blockchain is reshaping telecom payments, the hurdles companies are facing as they roll out these innovations, and what the future could look like for decentralized finance. Plus, we will explore Zeebu's Zeebu token and how it fits into this exciting new landscape. So, whether you are a tech enthusiast or an entrepreneur looking for fresh insights, or just curious about where telecom industry is headed, this episode is just for you. So let's get started. Raghav, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Spark and the Forge podcast. How are you?
Subrata, I'm doing excellent, and it's my honor. Like I had mentioned to you in the past, I have seen all the work you've been doing, all the guests you have been talking to. A real delight to jump on this, podcast and have a heart to heart conversation with you.
Absolutely. Raghav, I have been looking forward to this conversation as well for a few reasons. The telecom payment space is at such an exciting point right now, and what you and your team at Zeebu are doing is truly innovative.
Thank you.
Blockchain has moved beyond just being a buzzword, is becoming a real game changer in how payments are processed. And we are seeing the potential for faster, more secure, and efficient transactions. But with all that promise, there are challenges that we can't ignore, like
Right.
market volatility in the cryptocurrency and regulatory hurdles that can complicate things. And the mix of excitement and caution makes me really curious about how you are navigating these complexities while seizing the opportunities ahead. But before we go into all of that, let's take a step back and kick things off and dive into your personal journey. I know you have
Sure.
an amazing, illustrious career. So, can you take us back to your early life? And I would love to hear what isn't in your professional bio as well. What
Sure.
experiences shaped your perspective on technology and innovation, and how all of those foster your entrepreneurial mindset?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you so much, and yeah, I mean, I'll probably go back to just finishing college and getting into my first job and give you a quick snapshot of how my career has been. And I say this in most of the podcasts. My whole journey and life has been a story of great blessing, and a lot of good mentors, great leaders have shaped to who I am. If I have done anything good in my work, then probably the credit goes to immense amount of God's grace and all the good people who have been helping me. So I did my bachelor's of engineering in computer science from Karnataka, from a university called Vishwesvaraya Technical University, and I wanted to be a software programmer. I started my career as a device driver programmer, but I think programming was not something that I enjoyed, or I thought I'll make my career in. So I decided to shift gears and do something else. That's when I went to IIM, did my management program, and then started my career in marketing. I was recruited in Google, and obviously coming from a tier 2 city in India, getting an opportunity to work in Google was a fabulous thing. And so what happened at Google was I was hired to work on the in the team called OSO, which is online sales and operations. Started with a product called Google Checkout, and then which is today known as Google Pay, which is Google's payment platform. And then I worked on Google's social media platform back then, which was called Orkut, and then worked on a little bit on YouTube. YouTube was a new acquisition Google had done, and we were still discovering what is pay per stream, pay per click. How do people make money by uploading videos and things like that. So very interesting journey, a lot of great learning there. Did that, went back and worked in multiple other organizations, worked at Infosys, had a privilege of working with some of the brightest minds there, and then came back to Hyderabad and helped world's third largest back then software testing company Signity to do phenomenally well in testing and established ourselves as world's largest testing services brand. It is a public listed company and recently got acquired by Coforge. After doing a stint of about 5 years there and working with Fortune 500 companies, I thought it was about time that I should do something, and then I ended up starting a brand called HNB Consulting. I teamed up with another friend who became the co-founder, developed an algorithm to do digital listening. I'm talking about a decade, 10 years ago, Subrata, when digital listening was not a very frequent thing. So we wanted to listen into, web and tell brands what people are actually talking about them. A completely data-driven marketing. It was a fabulous experience. First time entrepreneur. I did not know what it takes to be an entrepreneur, right? All these days I was playing in the safety net. When you go meet a customer and say I'm coming from Google or I'm coming from Infosys, it's a whole different story versus going and telling I'm an entrepreneur and I'm representing my own company. It took about 7 to 8 months for us to get to certain level. Completely bootstrapped, had not raised any money, didn't know how to even raise money. So did that, and then we landed our first customer, which was a Fortune 500 customer from US. And then one thing led to the another. In 2 years, we had about 30 plus Fortune, 1,000 customers paying us great sum of money. And then I did that for about 2.5 years. That's when I also dabbled into running political campaigns for some of the greatest national leaders. And that is not something I thought I will do for rest of my life. I sold that company to a private equity firm, made good money, went back to the drawing board and decided what I should do. And then this time I decided I will play on the agency side and created another company called ThoughtFolks. ThoughtFolks was in the business of helping brands build their brand story, their brand positioning, acquire customers, and do all of that. We were predominantly playing in the go-to-market strategy and those areas. Did that for about 4 years, Subrata, and then excited. We kind of partnered with a large player who then eventually acquired us. The second exit was again phenomenal, lot of great learning. And then I decided probably it was about time for me to retire, or go back to teaching, which I enjoy and love doing. But then COVID hit. I was busy working on my PhD thesis. After the COVID, we didn't know what to do, so I was spending a lot of time at home. enjoying with the family. And then I ended up writing a book, which was again an accidental thing. Everything that I had done, all my experiments collectively put together, I wrote a book. I didn't even know what to do. A very good friend called Rama Iyer, helped me. He said, why don't you publish this thing as your work as a book? That's how I sent it and published it. It ended up becoming the national bestseller in the entrepreneurship and growth hacking category on Amazon for a long time. And then one thing led to the other. I wrote my second book and third book. And, next month I'm launching my fourth one, which is around branding. So, unknowingly, with all the life experiences, I ended up becoming an author. And then when things started coming back to normal, I was thinking, what do I do? What should be my next gig? That's when I realized blockchain was changing the way world does transactions and all of that, and ended up co-founding Zeebu with two of my other co-founders. Yeah, the journey. I mean, we started, it's been 2.5 years. Zeebu is right now valued, last week we got a report, we right now valued as a company at $2.8 billion. Our fully diluted token valuation is 17 billion. And we have done a little over $5 billion in transaction in the last 18 months. Has been a phenomenal journey, and very thankful for what we've been able to do.
Wonderful. Okay, before we transition to the next part of our discussions, I want to take a moment to connect with our listeners. I have noticed many of you have been listening to the episodes, but not everyone has hit the subscribe button yet. And I totally get it. But here is why it matters. When you subscribe, you are helping us grow the podcast, reach more people, and it gives me the motivation to work even harder to bring even better content. The bigger we get, the more exciting opportunities and collaborations we can bring to life. So if you're enjoying the episode, please subscribe, like, and share. Let's keep this momentum going. And I can't thank you enough for being part of this. So, Raghav, let's talk about your journey into startups. You gave a very holistic picture. You moved from prominent roles at companies like Gladstone, Goldstone, Google, Infosys, with all the comforts,
Right.
including unlimited free coffee, I'm sure, uh,
Yes.
into the uncertain world of startups,
Right.
where founders often lose sleep over whether they can make payroll next month. So,
Correct.
did you ever stop and think, am I crazy to do all of these? Or was this the bold leap always part of your grand vision?
So, like I again said, I had, I would, as a new individual, when I started the journey, Subrata, I was very happy if I was able to, meet my ends, probably own one car and one house. I thought that that is my ultimate, North Star metrics. I was not, I didn't start the journey thinking that I will be an entrepreneur, we will build a unicorn one day and things like that. But yes, more than me, I think it was my parents and my family members who thought I had lost it and I was crazy, because first startup, like you said, I had gone through all of that myself, right? How do I run my next payroll? How do I pay for the big office that we have? How do I make sure that my employees are retained well and taken care? When you're running a startup, you are competing with some of the large corporates which are paying great salary, and people, especially a lot of them in our country. I mean, I'm very happy things are changing now, but enjoy the security and safety that large companies provide. So, imagine late, 2009, 2010, or early 2011, 12 time. We had all these huge influx of multinationals, the Microsofts, the Googles, and the LinkedIn's of the world hiring people at crazy salary. And then you were, as a startup founder, facing the challenge of trying to entice people and tell them why they should join startup and how it can help them create wealth. So yeah, I mean, it definitely, I will never say it was easy, but I would say this, that every single struggle and uphill that we faced was worth it. Today, when I look back, I feel I have so many experiences to share, so many stories to tell. I mean, if I had remained doing just what I was doing, I would have probably been a great CMO of some of the Fortune 500 or finest companies, which I'm grateful to have had the opportunity. But today, I can tell you which is the best accounting software if you are in India versus Dubai versus US. Where do you hire your best sales team? How do you kind of, so all the growth hacks happened only because I could do startup, right? I will share a very interesting story, Subrata, if you're okay, just one
Please,
minute.
please.
Um, we were wanting to crack this code, right? How do I bring in sales people who are happy, who are joyful and enjoy selling? And we experimented both. I ended up hiring people with 30 years, 35 years of sales experience from large corporates, but it came with its own set of challenges. And then we thought there should be a sure shot method. I then cracked in my first startup a secret formula which I use even today. We started hiring people from hospitality background. We started hiring people from great institutions like Tata Institute, who have done their hotel management. They are taught about how to be pleasant, how to put customers forefront of everything else they do. And then we put them through a crash course of 3 to 6 months, training them how software selling happens, how B2B sales happen, how SaaS selling happens. And then the combination of these two became like a phenomenal formula. Some of my best salespeople were the guys that I hired with a hospitality background, trained them in technology and selling, and then ended up becoming great sales leaders. So two things happened. One, it was a beautiful startup jugaad, the way we say in India, innovation, where we were able to get people at a very very affordable price, and they were so committed that each one of them continued growing with us for years till we exited the company and joined us in the next journey as well. So what I mean to say is, this whole startup journey has made me a better leader, a better person, and taught us 100 ways of how do we innovate and how do we build phenomenal organization and yet not blow millions of dollars. So it has been a fabulous journey. And I was a friend was asking me when we were on a panel discussion last week, if I were to go back and change anything, would I change? I mean, my answer would be no. I mean, I enjoyed all the struggles, and that's what taught me so many valuable lessons. And if there is one thing that I would tell younger generation, I keep telling this to my daughter as well, is take risk early on, be an entrepreneur, create meaningful products, and it is nothing is more satisfying than that.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that insight. I think it's a wonderful perspective that you shared, even at the time of hiring people, right? I mean, we always look for people with the right skill set that we need, right experience in that particular domain that we need, and
Yeah.
we try to shortlist. But many times we forget that some of the skills can be taught, but there are
Correct.
skills like empathy,
Yes.
skills like customer care, things like that comes people who spend time in industry like hospitality dealing with the customers. And when you deal with those people, then you realize these are the things that I really want to imbibe and bring in. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that insight and what you do. Now, you know, venturing into blockchain for
Yeah.
payments is quite a leap when you started Zeebu,
Right.
especially given the regulatory concerns and the cryptocurrency volatility. So I have three questions for you.
Yeah.
First, what sparked your interest in this area
Yeah.
and what motivated you to pursue despite the challenges? Second is, how has this decision enabled Zebu to
Yeah.
tackle issues that traditional systems could not handle? And the
Yeah.
third is, what value does this innovation bring to the telecom operators and the customers ultimately?
Right. Right. Beautiful, beautiful question, Subrata, and a lot of a lot of people, this is a great opportunity for me to also share the story with other fellow entrepreneurs who are building something on blockchain. Right. Number one, blockchain as a technology is something that is so beautiful, that can transform businesses, that can bring immense amount of transparency, and that can help you leapfrog in the journey. And that was something that kind of always caught my attention and caught significant amount of most of us who were building things in Web3 and blockchain space. But what happened was we had to cut through a lot of noise because people get too attracted with the glitz and glamour of Web3, right? About cryptocurrencies. How can a cryptocurrency become 10x, 100x in 1 year? Easy way to make significant amount of money and all of that. But that is just one piece, one piece of the whole business. But overall, blockchain, and if you look at putting everything on chain, 100% transparency, total decentralization. One person doesn't hold the control. It is the entire community put together that holds the control. Is such a beautiful concept, and very good question, right? Why did we even get into this, and why did
Yeah.
we even want to do this? So when we were originally working on building a product that would solve a technology problem that telecom carriers are having. Telecom carriers are basically the players who make international calls, data and SMS happen. Let's say you are in India and you're using Airtel. I'm in US and I'm using AT&T. When I call you from AT&T to Airtel, it's not the connection between AT&T to Airtel. It is the connection between multiple telecom carriers, which then connects these two operators. And so it is overall a $120 billion industry, Subrata. That's the addressable market that we are talking about. And on an average, each carrier does anywhere between 500 million to
Like
billion plus.
$1 billion, are you saying for the overall telecom, or are you saying the
No,
payment?
telecom carriers only. I'm
Got
not
it.
talking about operators. I'm not talking about, ISPs, none of that. Just the telecom carrier is 120 billion. And we wanted to go after that market. And what happened was we realized, let's say if I am AT&T and T and I send money to a telecom carrier in Africa, let's say I send him a $30 million payment, it would take anywhere between 1 week to 20 days, 25 days for them to get that money out from the bank.
45
Obviously,
days.
because,
I
yes.
heard of 16, 17 days, but you're saying 45 days?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
so some of the emerging economies, right, developing countries, the banks don't even have that kind of war chest. They don't have $100 million in foreign currency to give out to the customer and the merchant. So they would settle it in phased manner. So this is something that we heard from customers, and we said, how can we solve this problem? How can we bridge this whole gap where we say, okay, I send you money and you should be able to receive it within 1 working day or 2 working days, and your money should be in your bank. So that's the problem we intended to set out to solve. And the intention was not to launch our own value transfer mechanism, the token Zeebu and all of that. So we solved that problem by building a PSP, the payment solutions provider, where we said, okay, we build a blockchain platform where you come in India and you raise the invoice, I receive it in Africa and I approve it. You transfer the money and I get it in my wallet, and all of this happens within a day. So when we started experimenting, we started it. How do we do it in 24 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours? And right now we do every transaction. Typically gets settled anywhere between 7 minutes to 20 minutes, and across 135 countries this is the time it takes. So what we do is, when a customer comes and raises an invoice and the merchant approves it, they just buy our Zeebu token, use it for the transaction. It goes to their wallet and then goes back to their bank through the off ramp provider. All of this happens in matter of few minutes, and customers were delighted. Now, I will tell you the other problem that traditional channels have, right? Let's say I'm
Right.
using bank transfer, wire transfer. When you do a wire transfer from let's say United States to Egypt, or let's say I do it from India to Iran, number one, I end up paying a lot of wire transfer fee or forex fee. Second, there is a problem where people have to pay a lot of money for forex currency exchange, and by the time customer gets it, they are losing anywhere between 4.5 to 5%. Telecom carrier as an industry itself operates at a margin of 3.54%, and if they end up losing so much in the banking trails, they were not even very, it was not encouraging for them to do the business. Today we do this entire end-to-end settlement just by charging 1% flat fee. And that's how we embarked on this journey. And it was it has been phenomenal, Subrata. When we launched this, you know, little over 2 years ago as an experiment, we started doing it with stable tokens USDT. Um, we hardly had handful of customers who started using it, but like they say, there is no better marketing than word of mouth. The moment they experienced the speed, the precision, and ease of doing business, people started talking. And as we speak today, we have over 135 customers across all the continents, and we have 270 customers on my wait list. I mean, we are probably one of those very few businesses where customers are on the wait list and we are telling them, hold on, give us some time, we will bring you on board. So that's the beauty of what blockchain can do. What happened next was a byproduct, and I wouldn't brag too much about it. We launched our token at 50 cents. It was just a value transfer mechanism for us, zero speculation, 100% utility token. And in a matter of year and a half, we grew 10x. Our 50 cents became $5. And like I said, we were able to process, little over $5 billion. And that's when it was not us, it was the industry that started calling us the Web3 neobank, and that's how we embarked on that journey.
Awesome. So you talked
Yeah,
about 130 customers. These are operators on your platform?
these are all telecom carriers.
These are
So
all
so the
telecom
only
carriers.
difference between carriers and operators, for the benefit of audience, is
Yes.
operators are the guys where the customers directly interact with, like for example, AT&T, Airtel, Vodafone, Geo, Dutch Telecom, all of them, Orange. They are telecom operators. The people who make two telecom operators work together are called telecom carriers, and we cater to that industry.
Perfect. And you talked about some 5 billion transactions. Say that.
Yes. So anybody who wants to verify how are we doing as a business, obviously we are on blockchain, 100% transparency. There is no accounting, there is no ledger. You don't have to worry. Every transaction can be tracked real time. So whoever likes to check, they just go to dashboard.zeebu.com, and then they can see the transactions that we've been doing. We have done over $5 billion. The goal that we have for 2025 is to cross $14 billion. That's what where we foresee our transaction volumes going. And yeah, we're very excited about how we can bring that change, bring the transformation in the industry.
Great. We'll get into the Zebu business and tokens a little bit later in the conversation. But before that, I just wanted to ask you about your view in terms of how the telecom payment um, business or industry is evolving. So, as telecom payments evolve, do you
Yeah,
think do you think the blockchain-based settlement system will dominate in the coming years, or will we see a hybrid model, both traditional methods still playing a significant role, as many major traditional operators are still not on the blockchain-based payment settlement, if I'm not wrong?
absolutely, Subrata. So the traditional banking system will not vanish overnight.
Mhm.
And I also wrote one of my blogs on LinkedIn, which kind of stirred a lot of controversy and
Mhm.
conversation. The title of the post was "Are Banks Vanishing?"
Mhm.
Um, so I feel today what we are doing is only tip of the iceberg.
Mhm.
Imagine tackling an industry which does $120 billion in transaction.
Mhm.
Probably, if we do well and if we are able to get to our numbers, we will be scratching the surface. We will probably do 10 to 15% of all of that volume on blockchain. There is still 90% of volume left that is still done through the traditional methodology. Are things changing? Absolutely, yes, things are changing. Where I see this whole blockchain and Web3 going is, I see a world where there will be two merchants sitting at two different continents,
Mhm.
sipping their coffee on a Sunday morning, not bother about bank timing, what time of the day and all of that. Open their wallet, just do a transaction. It happens on the blockchain. They receive their acknowledgement. They don't have to wait for bank to send them confirmation of fund transfer. They do it, and then they can continue to move on with their life. I think this is where the whole world is heading. If you
Do you
look at the whole evolution,
5 to 10 years?
Uh, I mean, I would say fast track would be 3 years. Delayed would be 6 to 7 years. Um,
Why some of the legacy players are still holding back?
so a couple of things, right? One, people don't know what is this whole mammoth called blockchain, right? How do I know this is something that works? When we talk to a lot of traditional CFOs, they come back and tell us, dude, I don't even know how do I put this in my accounting standard. I don't even know how do I report this. I don't even know if this is safe enough, and things like that. So it requires a little bit of more education, a little bit of more hand holding, especially in terms of regulatory and compliance. But once that happens, Subrata, I mean, I'm telling you, we will be in a world where each one of us will travel across the length and breadth of the world just with one currency. So I keep telling people this: the ideal goal of humanity is one world, one currency, and we will probably see that happening through blockchain and crypto and all of these new age digital payments and digital assets. Today I travel, just last year alone I traveled, I think, about 34 countries. And across these 34 countries, I never carried any credit card. I never carried any local cash currency. I have a vendor, it's called, the company is called Reap. It's on my phone, it's on tap, and I just load currency in you know crypto of my choice. And any country I go, I just pay them. It transfers money to the merchants, to the coffee shop, in currency of their choice. I just walk in, do the transaction, buy. It is as simple as buying from your Visa or MasterCard, but you don't have to worry about the exchange fee, the forex charge, or any of that. So that is where we are getting to, right? And I feel, whether it is telecom industry, whether it is commodities, whether it is you know any of these large industries, I mean, it is inevitable for them to transform. What is happening with AI, right? You are a thought leader in that space. The agents are changing so many businesses. They are dominating the way our world operates. Same thing in blockchain. I think payments and settlements will never be same. I mean, imagine 10 or 15 years ago, if I had told you 80% of the branches or banking branches in India will become irrelevant and they will start vanishing, no one would have believed me. If I had said 35 to 40 years ago that you don't need a checkbook, you don't need a demand draft, you can go to any part of the country with one card and use it, people would have probably laughed at me. But look at the way the whole space has transformed. Just, I mean, in terms of stats, India is probably the first country and the largest country to have done the massive amount of UPI transactions that we do today. Be it a street vendor or be it buying a Mercedes Benz, everybody has a QR code. You scan it, link it to a bank, and boom, the payment happens. So, so that's what is happening with blockchain now. We're very fortunate that we are the early movers in this space, but this is getting transformed like no other industry, and very soon we will see
Okay.
most of these players using blockchain for payments.
Okay. So, first of all, thanks for sharing your journey, the, the path to Zeebu. And now let us shift our focus to Zeebu a little bit more and its
Sure.
role in transforming the telecom payment landscape. Zeebu's growth to unicorn status, frankly, is significant.
Thank
So
you.
let's dive into what's driven that success and how the company has navigated this journey. So we come to the core part of the discussion. Zeebu's rise to unicorn status, and you talked about the current valuation is over 2.4 billion dollars.
Yeah, 2.8 billion.
2.8 billion dollars is a significant achievement
Yeah.
within the short time that you guys have been able to achieve. You talked about the journey, but can you share, for the benefit of many people who may be listening,
Yeah.
what are the key decisions that drove to this remarkable growth that you guys had?
Sure, sure. I mean, very beautiful question, Subrata. So before I delve into the answer, right? I mean, obviously, I want to reiterate the fact that the listeners and subscribers of your channel should definitely subscribe to the channel for two reasons, right? One, they're getting wealth of knowledge, and second, I'm a very avid YouTube user. I mean, I used to read so many books every year. Now I watch so many videos and I get so much of knowledge. what happens when they subscribe to the channel is they get the alerts when you do some of these cool conversations, and then they will be prompted to learn more and go deep. So I urge every single person who is watching this video, watching this interview, to go back and hit the subscribe button. So thank you for asking that question, and it is so important. I'll tell you my journey, right? When we were looking at all the traditional businesses that became unicorn, I thought it would take probably somebody a decade to build it, and it was not something that we thought we would achieve in probably 27, 28 months. It has been a fabulous journey, and I would probably tell you what led us to that whole thing, right? I mean, one, obviously, the power of technology, right? I mean, if we were doing something in the traditional world, for us to get to a transaction volume of $1 billion would take anywhere between 5 to 10 years. With the power of blockchain, with the power of all the integrations that we have done, we were able to achieve that in less than a year, $1 billion mark. And 2.5 years getting to 5 billion was only possible because we were harnessing the power of blockchain and technology. So number one thing that made it happen was the power of technology. Number two, we decided consciously as the founders of the company that we want to keep our innovation alive. Even today in our organization, in my company, I run a team, and this team works very closely with me and my two other co-founders. Their only job is to build newer innovation that will make our customers' life easy. Can I make the payment happen in 6 clicks instead of 10 clicks? That's a huge optimization for me. Today, every customer, it is all about ease of use, right? So when we launched our platform, it took 18 clicks for them to complete the KYC, KYB, get on board, connect your wallet, approve the invoice, transfer the money, and get the acknowledgement. My first goal was, how do we reduce this 18 clicks to under 10 clicks? Today everything happens in less than 5 clicks, right? So what I mean to say is, continuous innovation is something that will put anybody on the trajectory to become a unicorn, a great company, a big company, and all of that. Third thing that I personally value the most, something that is very close to my heart, is people and culture. You cannot imagine building a great organization, a unicorn, a $1 billion company, without focusing on building the right culture, bringing the right people, encouraging innovation, encouraging the openness. I think it is not possible. So that is something that kind of fast tracked and help us accelerate. The fourth point was the right partnerships, right? You are a phenomenal mentor in T Hub. You know what kind of startup ecosystem we are building in India. It's India's largest incubation center, and you see so much innovation happening there. I know as a fact that you yourself as a mentor are building and helping entrepreneurs build some of the finest AI stories. So it for us, the acceleration was possible because we were building right partnerships, bringing the right ecosystem in play. So that was very important. The fifth thing that led us to this success was being very, very community centric and community focused. When I say community, it is community of users, community of holders, community of investors. What I have learned, Subrata, is if we are open to listening and if we are open to hearing the feedback, there is a wealth of knowledge that we get from the community. We had a guy who gave us a very simple feedback. I mean, you may feel, oh, probably, I mean, it's not a big deal. We had most of our UI and our skin in a dark blue color, and this guy and this user is like 19 years old, right? He's not like a 25 years experienced CFO or CIO. He comes and says, dude, I don't like this whole blue thing because your screens are so dark and I don't like doing transactions. So we said, wow, great, let's experiment. We changed the whole thing into a light skin, white color. We got 7 different feedback emails from people saying, guys, the whole skin and the new UI looks great. So we were very agile, and I believe, as an organization, if you lose the agility, then probably you will also lose the opportunity to grow. So these probably are the top 5 levers that I would say that led us to where we are today. And this is like a simple template. Any organization, any startup that is wanting to get there, apply all of this, no brainer, and they will have phenomenal, unparalleled growth.
Perfect. So let me ask you this: people who are listening, some of them could be early entrepreneurs and getting inspired by this story. Uh, so, how has your leadership evolved through this journey from corporate to all the way that you have created multiple companies to finally now Zeebu, which is creating a which is dominating, which is going to dominate the industry in some sense, disrupting the industry, the right word in some sense. So, what were the seminal moments that marked your path to this milestone? If you were to say one or two things.
Absolutely. Subrata, again, great question. I think this can probably be a good blueprint for somebody who's starting up first time as an entrepreneur. And there are a couple of things that I have learned myself over the last three startups that I have been building and three organizations that we have built. The first and most important thing that you learn as a founder, as an entrepreneur, is you should be in a position to roll up your sleeves and literally do any job to make things happen. This may be a little crude example, but I still would like to quote in my first startup. We had an office space in Gachibowli in Hyderabad in India, and then my headquarters was obviously out of Dallas, Texas. So we had a large multinational client who was, a Fortune 20 client who was coming to India to look at our office before they outsourced the contract to us. And I was in India, and unfortunately, my housekeeping staff, the person who was leading, was not ill. I mean, he was ill and he was not keeping great. So he didn't come to office 3 days in a row, and I noticed there were a lot of water bottles in the conference room and all of that, and I knew these clients were coming. I just rolled up my sleeves, did not say anything to anybody. I just went, cleaned the whole place, made it look great and shiny. I came back, and the customer was supposed to come in at 3 p.m. People saw that. People said, hey, this is not a leader who kind of goes out and expects people to do, but he rolls up his sleeves and does things. And before the client came, the board was up, there was a welcome signage, and people started doing everything else that would make client feel warm, welcomed, and comfortable, right? And it was none of their job. I mean, the guys who were in office were the chief technology architect, I had a data scientist, and all of that. But they did it because they all felt it was their company. And I think a leader who leads by heart will always succeed in any entrepreneurial journey. The second thing that I really feel is, obviously there is so much of conversation about 70-hour versus 90-hour work culture, right? I think the beauty of startups today and the beauty of entrepreneurship is it is all about outcome based, and it is all about the best that I can do. If I'm a marketeer, can I write the best copy that exists on the planet? If I'm a social media guy, can I create the most attractive social media post that will get me 10,000 impressions organic? If I'm a developer, can I write a brilliant and a world class code that has zero flaws in it? And I think when people start doing that, you build a fabulous organization. Building a beautiful organization then becomes a byproduct. So like I said, people and culture and innovation are like two key facets that'll make any organizations shine. And these are probably some very simple and obvious
Great,
things. Yeah.
great insights. Okay, now let's talk about Zeebu and blockchain integrations. So
Sure.
you have been working with this cutting edge technologies to tackle the payment challenges in telecom. And I think rightly so, you
Right.
have mentioned why it was important for you to do that because it is very, very disruptive and it brings value. Now, one
Right.
intriguing aspect is Zeebu's integration to blockchain for secure and transparent transactions. So,
Correct.
for our listeners who may not be familiar, can you explain very briefly what Zeebu does and how blockchain fits into this strategy? And also, along the same, when you answer it, maybe you can also explain why did you choose to implement Zeebu token instead of USD, for example, for settlement.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I will tell you this, right? What Zebu does today is we are trying to ease the pain of any organization that involves or that has multi-million dollars of transactions that happen on a daily basis, right? um, I'll tell you how we have helped. We have eliminated a lot of monotonous work for most of our customers. They don't have to call up their banker, they don't have to go to the bank, They don't have to bother about, will the wire transfer happen if I do it on a Friday? Will weekend impact my payments and all of that, right? Today, I mean, this is something that I keep telling most of the CEOs and customers that I meet. I tell them my job is to make sure that you continue to focus on your core, on building your organization. And my responsibility as a founder is to make sure that your payments become so smooth that you don't have to worry, right? I mean, I keep telling this. So I was talking to a very famous, CEO of a large telecom in UK, and we actually caught up over a coffee, and he said, Raghav, when would you define that you have succeeded, in building a great company? What is your North Star metrics? Is it, when you do $25 billion transaction? Is it when you have like 500 customers? What would you define? I said, all of those numbers are my byproducts. Like I really don't care after getting to this level whether we are doing 8 billion or 7.5 billion. That's not going to change my life. My ultimate goal or a North Star metrics would be, I was telling this to the CEO. If your eighth grade kid, can take your phone and you tell him, hey, why don't you transfer, $2 million of invoice to, Orange Telecom, he should be able to do it without the fear of, losing that money, doing a wrong transaction and all of that, right? And blockchain does that. If you don't put the valid address, it can never go to a wrong person, right? You have to put the valid address of the right person and validate it, only then the payment happen. So it should be so uncomplicated that it shouldn't take a rocket scientist or a genius to do that transfer happen. And the day we get there, I feel we have done some real innovation and real work. So that's where the whole Zeebu is heading to, and that's where I would probably tell would be our North Star metrics. Now, coming back to why native token, right? Why ZBU? We could have done it with USDC, USDT, you're right. And this is something that, I keep getting asked at a lot of our conferences, our press meet, and all of that. And a very logical question. The answer is very simple. The availability and liquidity of any other token depends on that token issuer. Let's say I am in Ghana and I have to do a transaction of $25 million using a stable token, which is USDC or USDT or Ethereum or BTC or any of those. The availability of that token depends on the local market, the OTC, the ecosystem there, and all of that. But with Zeebu, what we have done is every single country that our customer is present, we have a banking relationship, we have an OTC relationship, and whether you want to do $1 million or whether you want to do $100 million transaction, we make sure that it is facilitated with a lot of ease. And we were able to do that only because it was our native token. If we had to depend on somebody else, then it would create a lot of dependency, and that's the only reason why we did it and why we launched it. Like I said, the goal was, how do I make payments frictionless? How do I make them seamless? How do I make them secure? And the byproduct was our token, which obviously grew phenomenally well. But that's the reason why ZBU was born.
So you talked about USDC and USDT. So just for people who don't understand
Yeah.
this, so those who are hearing this term for the first time, so stable tokens are the digital currencies designed to maintain stable value against fiat currencies. So how do you see them fitting into the telecom payment space? Do you see them being used in the telecom space?
So yeah, I mean, lot of, like, for example, I mean, this is very early on, and probably the first time on your show that we are kind of revealing this. We are now experimenting and building, B2C story here.
Hmm.
It is great that we have helped B2B organizations do these large transactions. We are working with one of the world's largest telecom operators
Hmm.
on building out a B2C story in an island near Australia, in Cook Islands, where we are telling that customers should be able to pay their mobile phone bills, do a top up recharge, do a mobile money transfer, do all of that just with our currency, with our token. And when that happens, then the adoption goes significantly high. And I mean, obviously we will be coming out with a huge press release and everything on this, but that is what we are aiming at and we are looking at. And once that happens, Subrata, I'm telling you, sky is the limit. And obviously that is where a lot of these currency of choice would play the role, right? And let's say if you let's say if you want to walk into Starbucks and want to pay with your token, it should not restrict you only with USDC, USDT, or a fixed token, but there should be an interface which says you pay with any token of your choice, I'm going to charge you only $2.1.
Yep.
So that's where a lot of innovation is happening, and I'm in the space, so I know a lot of phenomenal CEOs are building these stories. I know as a fact that XRP is doing phenomenally well there. You saw the recent press release that came which said Bank of America is now using XRP, which means it is becoming mainstream. Blockchain payments are now getting integrated into mainstream banks. So there is a phenomenal growth opportunity in this space, and I have no doubt that this is just the beginning. So there is immense amount of uptake here.
Also, related questions is that in telecom space, especially payments, you
Yeah.
deal with multiple stakeholders. So the telecom payment ecosystems includes diverse stakeholders, service providers, and intermediaries. So how does Zeebu, for example, align their interests in a more efficient manner to drive the outcome?
Yeah, so couple of things, right? Like I said, we are a very inclusive, player. If you look at, we have been, and I mean, in a lot of our podcasts, in a lot of conversations, there's even a press release out there where me and my founders say that, we have something called Zeebu Labs. Somebody, a new payment guy, wants to come and integrate a new thing. We are open. I mean, we are more than happy to experiment, and we are more than happy to innovate. The Zeebu Labs is basically a platform where we are saying, let us do everything it takes to solve every single problem in the platform space. There is a lot of regulation, a lot of compliance when it comes to payments in different countries and different continents, and we are continuously innovating and doing a lot of research on how can we make it better, how can we integrate better players, and do all of that. And that is something I think that, I mean, it's the need of the hour, right? How can I be more inclusive and very open in partnership? And unless we are open to all kind of partnerships, to bringing in the ecosystem, unless we are open to doing a lot of these innovation, I mean, encouraging those innovation, we will not succeed as an organization. And that's where I take pride in saying, we have an open innovation policy where we tell people, you have a great idea, please come in and join us. We are happy to fund, we are happy to give you the platform, expose you to our customers, but let's build something cool together.
Yeah. But different partners of yours will be in different infrastructure. But for onboarding purposes to your platform, what does it take?
So it's very simple. So we have a very simple and straightforward KYC, KYB. Know your customer, know your business. Things like the UBO's passport copy and their company incorporation certificate and things like that, which is very typical of any business to do a KYC, KYB. We have integrated with a player called SumSub. SumSub is world's leading KYC provider. So, like I said, they were extremely good in what they do. So we said, why don't you come in and integrate? They became part of the Zeebu ecosystem. Customer comes and does it, and in a matter of few hours, the KYC KYB is uploaded, approved, and then he's ready to start. He just gets onto the platform, connects his wallet, gets the tokens, and then starts settling the invoice.
So a new customer or new operator comes to your platform. It is seamless, as simple as possible. They can get on board maybe within a day and start
Yes,
operating. Now you
absolutely.
manage number of tokens, so supplies, demands are managed by you. So is there a expectation from the operator in terms of how they will start doing the transactions?
Yeah, so right now it is managed by centralized exchanges, Subrata, you're right. But we are very soon launching our foundation, which is Zebu Foundation. We want to walk the talk, right? We want to be a truly decentralized organization. I don't want any of us, the founders or the UBOs, or any of my CXOs, to have control on the liquidity. And hence we are launching Zebu Liquidity Protocol, where we are inviting people to come in, fuel the transaction, do the liquidity provisioning, and earn great rewards and great returns, and be part of the ecosystem and run the show for us. It should be truly democratic in the sense that fully decentralized. So we are building what in Web3 world in the blockchain world is famously known as DAO organization. DAOs are basically decentralized autonomous organization. It's like democracy where it is by the people, for the people, and of the people. The same thing happens here. It is, let's say you have a lot of USDT lying around, you would come in and say, hey, I will put that money in Zeebu, I will help customers do the transactions, and while they are settling it, I will charge a small 0.4 or 0.6% of the reward. So we charge customer 1%, of that 0.4% comes to you, or 0.6% comes to you. So on an average, people make anywhere between 18 to 35% of APY annually. There are also cases where people have made about 45% returns annual, but I mean, like, again, I'm no expert in telling how much percentage will be the returns, but that's the kind of historic returns that we've been giving. And by building a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, we are putting the power of the platform in the people's hands. And we remain part of the DevCo and the foundation, where the whole foundation is driven by a completely independent entity. It has council members and thought leaders like yourself who will be running it out of the Switzerland or Cayman Foundation, and then we will just sit back as a development organization and just continue to innovate and build on the platform.
Okay. Let's talk about the scalability, especially in emerging markets. So when you look at emerging markets where the growth is quite rapid, but infrastructure can be inconsistent, what are the key factors do you prioritize when designing payment solutions, payment platform like this for regions where there are varying regulations, different customer behaviors? So how does Zeebu ensures adaptability in these different environments?
Absolutely, brilliant question, Subrata. So what we do is, the first thumb rule and the golden rule for us as an organization is, any market we operate, any geography that we today serve our customers, we want to be 100% compliant with the local regulation and laws, and only then you will be able to do business as well. So that is something that is the first hygiene or the requirement for us to operate in any geo. Once that is done, like you said, there is varying technology infrastructure, right? Some of the emerged economies or developed countries, there are, it should happen just with a click of a button, but someone else, even getting access to a high speed internet can be a challenge. So how can we kind of cater to these needs and make sure that they are able to use the platform in a very seamless manner, and at the same time enjoy all the benefits that the blockchain delivers? So for that, what we have done is we have built a very light, interface where
Mm.
people just log in, click of three buttons, the whole transaction happens. And all they have to do is they need to have their wallets connected and all the other obvious things that are needed to do a transaction, and it is done. So whether you are doing it from a coffee shop in Manhattan, or you are doing it during your vacation from a forest camp, it should not, the experience should not change. And that's how we have built our technology and platform. Obviously we are a multi-chain platform, so we are built on multi-chain. We have our transactions on Base, on Ethereum, on BNB. So that kind of gives us the flexibility on, for user to choose on what chain he is comfortable and where he wants to use. We don't want to restrict them. A lot of people suggested that we should build our own chain, because then we will also end up earning a lot of gas fee or transaction fee. But it is a conscious decision we took that we don't want to do that. We want users to have the choice to do the transaction on chain of their choice.
Okay, fantastic. Let's talk about the protection against the token volatility. So let me give you a scenario, and that could be the best way for you to explain to our audience and to myself. Let's consider a scenario where carrier A raises an invoice for 1,000 Zeebu tokens,
Right.
valued at $1.
Right.
So at the time of invoicing. However, by the time the carrier B processes the payment, the value of Zeebu has dropped to, let's say, 0.8. So this
Right.
results in a loss for carrier B in terms of USD terms. So what specific measures does Zeebu take in place to protect such volatility? in terms of value of Zeebu token?
Beautiful question, right, Subrata? And the question is more critical and important because we're talking about blockchain crypto, where the markets swing plus 20, minus 30 in a day or in matter of few hours. And a very beautiful question. As a customer centric organization, how are we protecting, how are we making sure the interest of our customers and clients are protected, especially in the very volatile situation, especially in bull and bear markets? How does it happen, right? And this is a very interesting use case that occurred to us when we were actually, building the whole platform. So we were doing the sandbox testing, and we were doing the POC testing. And so me and my co-founders, we were in Singapore, attending an event, and we actually logged into the system. Each one of us bought, this was all on sandbox environment, right? Testing environment, and we were doing multiple permutations combination. We bought some dummy tokens. We said we want to settle it, and then we realized we were getting late for the event. We went out to the event, finished the whole, engaging with our customers, our partners, and then came back. And then we said, hey, we were due to settle this invoice, let's go back and settle. And we said, oh wow, on our sandbox the fluctuation is like plus 18%. So which means now when I settle the invoice versus when I bought the token, I'm already losing 18%. How do we protect that? So that's when Zeebu came up with this whole value lock mechanism, which means if you have purchased 1000 ZBU for $10,000, when the transfer happens, the value is locked for that invoice for that amount. So it doesn't matter if the price is like $20 a token or $2 a token, the transaction value is always locked. So that way we are making sure every single customer who is using the platform, his value is protected and he is not, party to any volatility in the market.
Okay. All right. As we look at the evolving landscape, and I'm just sharing my perspective on this, I believe the stable coins play a crucial role in providing stability amidst the market fluctuations. Their ability to maintain 1:1 value ratio with fiat currencies makes them particularly attractive for cross-border transactions. And I also see the complementary relationship between stable coins and innovative solutions like Zeebu token. Is that a fair assumptions, a thought that I'm holding?
Yes, to a large extent, and yeah, so that's why to do that we come up with this whole new protocol thing, right? And how do we protect and how do we give maximum upside again? Like any other public listed company, any other organization, any other listed token, you know even me as a founder, I cannot guarantee that this will always go up. I cannot say that you will definitely make 10x. Just because we made 10x in last 1 year, I will not say that you'll make 10x next year, because it obviously depends on a lot of factors, right? It depends on the market, it depends on the
Yep.
sentiment. It also depends on, I mean, you saw the whole rally of BTC, Bitcoin, crossed $100,000 with, based on the political scenario in US. So there are a lot of factors that drive it, but what we do and what I am very focused on is what can I do that is in my power and in my capacity today that will help my customers stay protected, value is protected, and their capital is, as much as possible safe while they do all of these transactions, right? So that's where we came up with this whole decentralized autonomous organization. We came up with this whole protocol. In protocol there are multiple players. There are people who have a lot of capital. They will come in and play the part of on demand liquidity provisioning. We call them OLP. They will come in, they will put the money, they will help people do the transactions, and in return they take a part of the rewards from the settlement feed we do. Then we have these players called deployers who validate this whole transaction and make sure that it is happening the way it is supposed to happen. And then there is obviously a lot of decentralized and blockchain, the power of blockchain itself, that is helping this whole thing happen in a very transparent, safe and secure way. While we do that, it is extremely important for us to make sure that security is very well taken care of and the platform is well audited and all of that. So Certic is one of the top notch certifying organizations when it comes to blockchain security, and as an organization we are audited and fully certified by Certic. Just on security audit, on the platform audit, and all of that. I think we have spent about $6 million to getting certified. Some of people in the ecosystem said you don't have to get so many certifications, it's not worth. I always believe it's better to be safe than sorry. I said, we want to make sure that everything that we can do that is in our control, let's do it to help our customers and to build that trust. And that's why we kind of went that extra mile and got all of those certifications and everything done. So these are a few things that we do, Subrata, and everything that is in our control, we kind of try to push to make sure that we create a very safe and secure environment for people to come in and do the transaction. And that's why we have kind of grown so phenomenally well, right? $5 billion in 2 years was something that we didn't even imagine would happen. So yeah.
Yeah. In addition to that, now you're scaled up. You have got over 100 operators on your
Right.
platform. I'm sure there are a lot of potential operators that you're going after, and the technology is evolving. Innovation is at a rapid pace. So with all of those things happening, communication becomes very important, especially to create awareness
Right.
and communicate. So how does Zeebu communicate, uh, especially the protective measures, to
Right.
build trust among the ecosystem?
Absolutely. So there are two pieces, Subrata, here. One is the internal communication and the external communication. External is basically to the believers, to the followers, to the members of our Web3 ecosystem and community. It's a very simple thing. We put out a lot of our messages almost near real time on our Telegram channel on Zeebu and Zeebu announcements. We are very active on Telegram. We're very active on Twitter, and we also do a lot of instant communication to our customers. Communication when it comes to transaction records, and all of that. We kind of continue to use email as our preferred mode. We tell them what's happening and how things are shaping up. But if you ask me which is the best way for anybody to stay on top of what's happening in the kitchen, what's cooking in Zeebu, Telegram is a channel. And if people look at our Telegram channel, it is buzzing, and we have, I mean, across all these channels that I just mentioned, we have about 1 million followers. So it kind of gives us, also puts that additional responsibility that we have to be very, very vocal in everything that we are doing. And you touched on a very, very important aspect, right? If I want to be seen as a very successful project, and if I really want to build credible stories, then the key is in how transparent I am in communicating, and the speed of communication. And we take it very seriously. And like I said, you can see most of our announcements are near real time.
Fantastic. Let's quickly also discuss about, as much as you are comfortable in sharing, the
100%.
Zeebu's business model. Um,
Sure.
how does Zeebu generate revenue through his platform? Can you explain the transaction fee involved? How do they compare with the traditional payment system? What are the competitors? As much as you are comfortable in sharing, um, would you be able to throw some
Yeah,
light?
100%, Subrata. And we are, like I said, we are in the blockchain world, and everything is transparent, everything is out there. Even if I don't say, people can go to BSC scan and they will see how many transactions have I done and how much money have I earned. So it's a very simple logic. We charge 1% to the sender and 1% to the receiver on the amount that they are transacting. So that is the fee we charge. That's the fee we earn for Zeebu as an organization, and that's how we make our revenues. 2023 we were little over $70 million, and I think 2024 the audit is yet to happen. But I know we made significant revenues from this fee that we collected. Now, obviously, for anybody to adopt a new platform, a new technology, obviously there are a few reservations. People will hold back, saying, oh, why should I try that? Why do get into one more new app on my phone? Why to get into one more new thing? So we had to incentivize users to try a new platform, a new methodology in making payments happen. So we gave away rewards for people who settle on our platform. So that was one of our big marketing expense that we had. That was our customer acquisition strategy. For us, the business model is very simple. we want to keep the transactions fee low, keep it just 1%, and facilitate everything to happen in minutes. We don't do it now, and we will never do it in future. We don't do any kind of surge pricing and charging and all of that, right? I mean, I'm sure you see most of the guys doing today. For example, let's say the ride hailing apps today, if you're taking a cab in a peak hour, they charge you X dollars, and if you are taking it in a slow hour, then they charge you probably X minus Y. But we don't do that. I mean, if you are in an emergency, you want to transfer $100 million in 7 minutes, or you're just doing it as your business as usual, the fees is same and flat. And what we also do is, and what we feel, we want to kind of, where is the next phase of growth coming to us as an organization, is we are looking at onboarding a lot of merchants and use cases where there are large transactions involved. We are talking to some large production houses which are doing massive imports and exports. We are talking to bullion traders who do like anywhere between 100 to 500 million dollars of transaction in gold and precious metals. We are talking to people who are in value tokenization, asset tokenization, in real estate and all of that. So there are multiple use cases that are being tried, experimented. Again, there is compliance, there is regulation that each industry has. So our research team is right now working on understanding what does it take, and then eventually, once we have a fully tested model, we will continue to launch new use cases. But telecom will continue to remain the core of who we are and what we do, telecom settlements, unless we have reached a significant value and momentum. We will just continue to experiment and try new use cases.
Right.
Yeah,
So in next to 5 to 10 years, for example, with advancements in AI, increasing adoption of digital wallets in many countries, and ongoing efforts towards financial inclusion, what should businesses focus right now to stay ahead in this rapidly evolving ecosystem?
absolutely. Brilliant, brilliant question. And so I will split this in two parts, right? If you are looking at it as a business owner, a founder, an entrepreneur, you need to make sure that you embark on what's latest, what's causing the ease of business, and what is helping businesses accelerate today. If you don't embark on the journey, very soon the company and the business will become irrelevant in the race, and probably you would not even you'd cease to exist.
Yep.
For example, any company, I mean, I talk to a lot of founders and they say, oh, this whole AI is nothing but chat GPT. Oh, AI may not transform the world. I mean, I'm also an advocate that AI will not replace human beings, but if you are an entrepreneur, you're building something, make sure that you have a team that is focused and working and skilled on those areas. Sooner or later, your customers will come back and ask, hey, why is that you don't have AI agents now? Why is that my request still takes 3 hours to be serviced when others are doing it in like 6 minutes? And if you're not able to get there, eventually your customers will leave. So that is one thing that any entrepreneur, any founder should do. Second thing that I personally have experienced in my life, and I advise most of the people who are building companies, is mentorship,
Mm.
right? And how can you get right mentors to help you build right things? You will also agree with me, we are all humans. We can't foresee everything that will happen in future, right? I cannot build a use case that I will assume will happen 10 years down the road and then build something today. It would definitely need people who have been there, done that, and who understand the space well to come in and mentor and help. So, second thing that every entrepreneur should do is bring thought leaders and mentors on board to help them scale and grow. And you are a brilliant example, right? If I want to build a AI agent, a use case, or if I want to do something on how can AI help me accelerate platforms, payments, across multiple platforms, I would probably sit down with you on a coffee, request your time, ask you to mentor me and my team in building those AI agents, in building those AI stories. So that's the second most important thing. The third thing is be part of ecosystem always helps. Whether it is your fundraise, whether it is you want to solve a big technology problem, any of that, if you have great ecosystem that you can tap into, it will definitely help accelerate the journey. So next 5 to 10 years, it is all about great technology, great collaboration, and great minds coming together and building something cool. One thing that I've noticed, Subrata, right now is a lot of impact projects are kind of taking over, right? Today the next generation is not worried too much about profits, but they are worried about how can I reduce the carbon footprint, how can I build a sustainability startup and things like that. So that's going to pick up huge, and I think these are a few things I see the trend and where the world is heading towards.
Excellent, excellent. Now, you emphasized, and I'm asking this from people who are early entrepreneurs or thinking of doing something as disruptive like you have done, may not be in
Yeah.
the telecom payment space, but any other space, doesn't matter. But
Hmm.
you emphasize that true innovation requires understanding the real problems. How can startup really balance the cutting edge technology with the practical needs of the customers who may be hesitant to adopt the new solution?
Brilliant, beautiful, beautiful point. So this is how I answer it, right? And this is how I look at it, and this is how I have done over the last three startups that I have built. The beauty is always in getting the MVP out fast. Nobody can give you a brilliant and a better feedback than your customer does. So if you want to be a perfectionist, you want to use large language models, you want to use AI agents, you want to use blockchain, all of that, and you keep building, trust me, the product will never go live. Look at three most important pain points of your customer, build a solution around it, and launch the product, and tell the customer, can you please use this and tell me what are the five things you like and what are the five things you don't like in my product right now. And when they come back and give you that feedback will then become your compass on building the next roadmap for your product, and what kind of technology components you want to bring in, what kind of things you want to bring in. But the most important and the most critical piece is how soon can you tailor the MVP, how soon can you go to market, and how soon can you let your customers use and decide what they want. I have seen a lot of brilliant entrepreneurs, Subrata. I have seen probably like hundreds of them, be it in Y Combinator, be it in our own T Hub ecosystem, where they kept building. They focused so much on perfecting the product
Yeah,
that they ended up building a great product, but then the product lost the relevance in the market.
correct.
So it is very important and very critical. Do an MVP, launch, improve. Do an MVP, launch, improve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Raghav, it's such a fun time I'm having with you, but I'm also
Yeah.
conscious of the time. But would love to again do another podcast sometime later when the time arises. And I hope you will join me in discussing other topics.
100%, Subrata. I'm telling you, it was such a pleasure, such a delight. I didn't even realize we spoke over an hour, but it was a beautiful conversation, and the most important thing was this was an unfiltered conversation. So I loved it. I loved having this conversation with you, and the beauty, like I had mentioned to you in person, one on one, when we spoke, the beauty of all your podcasts, and I urge all the audience to go back and listen to all the other beautiful episodes that you have put together, is it is completely unfiltered and straight from heart, and that's when you get so many beautiful nuggets and takeaways, for founders and for entrepreneurs. And thank you so much for spending your time, and this
Thank
was
you.
a great show. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Now, we are not done yet, but we have almost come to the end. So,
Sure.
before we get to the next step, is there anything else do you think we should have discussed but we haven't? And anything else do you think that you want to communicate or share which will be of relevance?
So I think we spoke about most of the elements. Given a chance, I would probably touch a little bit more on the software elements, because people talk a lot about unicorn money numbers, but there are so many other elements to it. And I would, if it is okay, it is more around the software and people elements. Generally, what I want to tell is, people say, hey, how does it feel being a unicorn? How does it feel running a $1 billion company? I tell them it's the same feeling that I had probably 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
I tell people not to focus on that too much, on that $1 billion or unicorn talk. Look at things more holistically on the relationships, the values, the friendships, the family, and all of that, because it is very important for entrepreneurs to balance it, because most of the time they tend to lose that and go off balance. So that's one element I would love to touch upon. I mean, if we can, otherwise that's totally fine.
Wonderful. We will. I'm sure we will find another topic to discuss because you have so much of things to share.
Yeah,
We have somebody who has taken risks. We have innovation has been part of your journey all along, and I'm
yeah.
sure many founders will benefit from that. Now we
100%.
come to this segment, which is called the Spark Round, light-hearted, quick questions, and then we will wrap up. So, are you ready?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Excited.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be and why?
So if I can have dinner with a historical figure, it'll be Steve Jobs, someone who has deeply inspired me, and I feel a phenomenal leader and a phenomenal thinker. So it would be him. And if it was with anybody who is alive right now, then it will be with my daughters.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the most adventurous thing you have ever done?
So I have walked the whole Badrinath trek, and this is something that I was not trained for, but I did it purely out of sheer joy, and I love doing it. And that's something that I did totally unprepared.
Okay. If you could instantly master any skill or talent, what would that be?
In today's world, building AI agents.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Tumbin, a Hindi song, a Bollywood song,
Right,
and the title song from Tumbin, Tumbin Jiya Jai, I guess. It's a beautiful song.
right. I know that.
Yeah.
If you could live in any fictional universe, which one would you choose?
Oh, I would love to live in the myth. I believe a lot in the mythology, and I would love to go back to an era where Lord Rama lived, and I would want to live there.
Okay. What's the most unusual food you have ever tried?
I'm a pure vegetarian, and I was in China, and I ended up eating duck tongue, and I didn't know it was duck tongue. So,
If you could have any superpower, what would that be and how do you use it?
if I had a magic wand and if I could use it, I would love to eradicate poverty from this planet.
What's the most memorable concert or live performance you have ever attended?
Raghu Dikshit in Bangalore, a fabulous concert. I loved it.
And finally, who would you recommend as the next guest for the Spark and the Forge podcast and why?
So I have three recommendations. If it is okay, I would want you to bring a great friend of mine who is building a phenomenal marketing story. His name is Sai Rami. Today he's CMO of GoForge. He has many beautiful tales of marketing to talk about. So that would be one person. The second person that I would recommend is again a friend. He's an entrepreneur, founder of a organization called Evolutis Corp in Chicago. He again has a lot of great, interesting personal and inspirational stories to talk about. The third thing that I would probably love to see on your show is Vaidyanathan, the founder, the CEO of IDBI First Bank. I see him doing a lot of cool things in the Indian banking sector, and he would be a phenomenal guy to be on your show.
Excellent. You see, if you ask this question, never hesitate to ask. You don't know what you'll get.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Great answers, Raghav. This is such a fun, I'm telling you, and to wrap up some serious discussions. Thanks for playing along the spark round. Let's dive into some closing thoughts. So, Raghav, again,
Sure.
incredible, thought-provoking conversation, discussions, very insightful, very inspiring, and I'm sure those people who are thinking of doing something very innovative, very disruptive, it is a must listen. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for sharing the insights, vision, revolutionizing the telecom industry, payments industry. And I hope, and I really do hope that you had as much as fun as I had.
I absolutely loved our conversation, Subrata, because you have this gifted thing of connecting with your guests so well. You did the whole 9 yards on the technology blockchain piece. I have spoken to some of the finest podcast journalists, and a lot of them, and the depth that you went into is commendable. And also we covered the softer and the finer elements so well. And my favorite part of the show was the last rapid fire round. I loved it, the spark round. And I think that's what kind of it's the icing on the cake. It was such a pleasure being here, and I truly look forward, maybe a few years down the line, or maybe a few months down the line, I build something phenomenal, come back and talk to you again on your show.
Absolutely. Always this door is open for you. Love to have you. Before we go, leave us with some key takeaways. Those who are listening and probably not listen to the entire podcast, but come to the end. And if they want to take away something from you, what will those be?
Yeah, I would conclude with three of my very very personal favorites, and these remarks are something that I keep reminding myself and all my loved ones, around me. The first thing that I tell people is, this is something that I have always believed and has been my guiding force throughout my entrepreneurial journey, my ups and downs in life. You know, whatever happens in life, I believe happens because of God's will or the superpowers will, and in God's will lies our highest good. So we should not take anything too seriously in life. It is happening because God wants few things to be in certain way. I don't say that you just sit on your couch and expect things to happen. Do the best that you can, but believe that whatever is happening is happening for our good. The second thing that I believe that every single individual should do is, give your best in whatever you are doing, right? Let's say I'm washing dishes in my house. I want to be the best dishwasher on the planet. I am building a startup. I want to be the best entrepreneur on the planet. I am managing a team as an HR. I want to be the best HR to have walked on this planet. So try doing that, and trust me, the world will be a phenomenal place to live. The third and most important thing is, the joy of giving. Give a lot, give more than that you can, and trust me, you will receive in ways that you would have never imagined. Help people, help founders, help entrepreneurs. If somebody's doing a fundraise, connect them with the right VCs. It can be anything. Probably your driver, it's a Christmas Eve, it's a Diwali, just give him an extra bonus, just 1,000 rupees more than what his salary is. You will receive immense amount of blessings. So these are three most important and remarkable things that I believe, Subrata. And Shah Rukh Khan is my favorite Bollywood actor, and he says, I mean, there is a dialogue from his movie, you know, life में सब कुछ अच्छा ही होगा, and that is how it is concluded. And if it has not happened, then picture abhi baki hai mere dost. So that, yeah, so that's how we take on life. Yeah.
Thank you, Raghav, for being a part of the Spark on the Forge podcast today. Your insight reminds us that the future of telecom payment isn't something just happens. It is something that we all have the opportunity to shape. And as we explored, blockchain technology is truly transforming the telecom payment landscape, reducing settlement times as long as 45 days to just few minutes is a game changer. This improvement not only boosts efficiency but also enhances margins for telecom operators by streamlining the process and cutting costs. These innovations pave the way for better voice and data services, potentially even at lower rates for consumers at some point in time. What Zeebu is doing could revolutionize telecom industry globally, making transactions faster, more cost effective, and impactful. The ripple effect on the entire industry will be a fascinating watch in the coming days. And to everyone who's listening, I need to ask you a small favor. Producing quality content like this takes effort. Your support makes all the difference. By subscribing to this podcast, you help us grow and continue to bring you conversations you love. It's a small step for you, but it means world to me. So if you have enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening, on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite platform, and this conversation inspired you, then share it with your network to help us spread this vital discussions. Your support empowers us to keep delivering fresh perspectives and the ideas that truly matter. I would also love to hear your thoughts. How do you see innovation transforming the payment space? Engage with me on the LinkedIn or reach out directly. And the Spark and the Forge podcast isn't just a platform for ideas that challenge the status quo and fuel meaningful change. Together, let's stay curious, stay innovative, and make a real difference. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time in the next episode. Until then, stay well, stay safe, and bye for now.